Okay. Let's just locate the dantian. Actually, we won't use the stick. We'll do something a bit different. That's basically the equivalent. So just allowing the pressure that you're applying with your hand to just help suck the mind into the dantian. So the dantian is the center of gravity. And so in a sense, it's of the earth. It's the part of you that's like the equivalent of what's beneath you. So in a sense, we're trying to sort of locate the ground. And modern man is grounded in his ego. So that's his foundation. That's what he operates from. He springs from his ego. Yeah. And so this is, Heidegger had this beautiful idea that that the earth, the ground ungrounds you. The ground undermines the ego. And what opens up is what he calls the abyss. And so what in Buddhism and Taoism, they call the void. Yeah. So when you really connect to what's beneath you, then you just don't need the ego anymore. So it's what Nietzsche was saying about new values, reevaluating, finding new values. Yeah. So we're getting underneath what we are, underneath what we've become or what we've made ourselves. Undermining. Okay, now so instead of the stick, let's just do the form. So do the form sitting down. So in China, you see pictures of like masses of people all regularly placed in wheelchairs. doing the form. Yeah? So people that can't use their legs, basically. Okay, so just the first part, just basically just doing this bit. Yeah. So using the back, so my back tightens to bring my hands up, and then I start tightening my belly to bring my hands over and down. Yeah, so back and belly. So I just want to feel this area. And so like my arms are really lagging. It needs quite a bit of effort to get them moving. So here I'm arching back a little bit, and then here I pull in with my belly and my hands go over the top and down. And then just doing the form. So just extending the arm and holding the ball for ward off left, and then ward off left. Holding the ball for ward off right, and ward off right. Yeah, so it's similar to the stick because we're really twisting. You basically just try and turn as much as you can. So roll back. And then here you can make circles here. Press. Push. And single whip. And then just back. Yeah, I'll just go up to single whip. And then just on the other side. So again, back is arching, and then my belly draws in. And then just entering, where we enter at the beginning of the form before you yield the person in. So here, just twisting as much as you can, and then ward off right, and then turning this way. Ward off left. And then just turning to the corner to start roll back. And turn. And then just you can just make circles. It's quite nice doing that in the form as well. Push and round. Drawing it in. And then let's just do a couple more. So one on each side. So belly. And top. Yeah, so just try and turn enough to sort of really get the lower back crunching. You can hear it cracking, and so it needs a constant tightness in the belt of the waist just to protect the back. So we're just trying to get some flexibility in the lower back, and that's difficult. Because your mind just basically has to be in quiet state most of the time, just because it becomes vulnerable, the back, when you free it up. So John used to say, our tension is there for a reason. It's there to protect us. So if you want to let it go, you need other protection, and that's just your quiet mind, your vigilance. Okay, let's just bring it back to the down chin. So mind in down chin. What we want is for that to be our ground state, that to be our go-to place when we are idle, if you like, rather than these idle thoughts coming into the head. So that's how we connect to the earth and connect to nature, yeah, by quietening the mind so that the abyss can open up. It's what the desert, hermit, the word hermit, eremite, comes from either the Latin or the Greek, I can't remember which, for desert. So that, what in the Bible they call the wilderness. I was flying back to Israel once, and I sat next to this priest who was coming to see the Holy Land. He was a lovely, lovely guy, a black guy from Africa. And he was asking me where he should visit. I says, well, you must go into the desert, because that's where Jesus became enlightened, And so, and when you go into the desert, you really feel how the desert just sucks all of this out of you. It's like a drain, And after a couple of days in the desert, this is just completely quiet. That's how you can tell. When you meet someone and they've got these shining eyes and a quiet mind, they've just come back from the desert. Normally Sinai, the Sinai desert. I'm in Tel Aviv at the moment, and each night now we get howling jackals in the street. So it's only since COVID that they've come into the city. So I'm going around the foot. So I'm skirting the feet, almost like I want to avoid the actual foot. So I'm going around it. So this hand is making a really big circle, and this hand is going around. This hand is more like it's tracing the actual pathway, and the other hand is just like this ballast that's hanging out the side to balance me, to balance the pull of this leg, the natural pull back into the center. So just relax. So when you relax, something in you quieten down. So the mind sort of centers in the Dantian. The mind sort of condenses and centers in the Dantian, but your energy expands and really fills the body. Like you have all this internal pressure that's just pushing out from your center through your skin. So it's like two aspects of mind. Energy is really just part of your mind. So I have a draw, this ruthless draw into the center, into the Dantian. At the same time, that there's like this optimistic, cheerful expansion from the center. So there's always a balance between between two tendencies, if you like, two drifts, two thrusts. Okay, so now let's just bring it back to riding horse. So we can feel that here. So here, there's a sense of gathering. into the Dantian, into your center. But there's also a feeling of expanding out to fill this posture. So, consciousness is like a shrinking. It's like a shrinkage. Yeah. So the consciousness sort of, it's like a room. It's like you're just in one room, and there's all these other rooms in your body, in your being. So when we relax out of the consciousness into awareness, then we feel that. And if we can slip into heightened awareness by really bringing up the spirit, the adrenaline, if you like, then we really do fill out. We fill the room. We don't just fill our body. Okay, now what we want to do is just go down, but normally I'd go down, I'd just sort of relax. I'd just relax the legs a little bit and the ground would pull me down. But now what I want to do is I want to go down because I'm pulling the ground up. I'm really pulling at the ground, and that pulls me down, and then I can push away from the ground. So it's like breathing. It's like I'm breathing the ground in to my Dantian, and then I expel it. So something in me sort of, in order to suck the ground in, I sort of expand the vessel. I sort of like I make a vacuum. So something expands here, and then that will actually draw me down because I'm pulling the ground towards me. And of course, the ground won't move. So I move towards it. So in creating all this like an internal vacuum. And then I just squeeze it out. It's like I blow it out. So here I suck it in. Then out. And just feel it in. So there's a real intensity here because in order to expand sufficient to produce that internal drop of pressure, you really have to become intense. So you have to really mean it. So yeah, so it's like at any point, I could either go down a little bit further or push up instantly. So I don't settle on the earth. I play with it. So we want the connection with the earth through the feet to be sort of energetic, a little bit sort of hazy. And sort of rubbery. Okay, and now let's just try basically the same thing, but now just breathing with the lungs rather than through the feet. Just always aware of that contact you have with the ground. Yeah, so it's a good idea to get, to get sort of thin-soled shoes so that when you walk, even when you're walking in the town or in the city, you really feel the quality of the ground beneath your feet. Because most ground is not even and level like the ground that we've created for ourselves in our houses and our towns. It's actually quite uneven and very different qualities. So if you're walking on grass, it feels very different than when you're walking on sand, than when you're walking in mud or on packed earth or on rock. So we just want to be really aware of the energy, the quality of what's beneath us. Because it's that we need to replace ego. And now just let it become figures of eight. So like we're doing this. So I'm really hollowing out these pockets, the leg pits, if you like. So here, I'm really trying to get it to stretch across the back and these to really open up, pushing myself onto the outside edges of the feet. So the outside edges are really important because it's that sort of splits you into two down the middle, into left and right side. Yeah, so you want the knees so far out that it feels like your feet are sort of projecting towards each other under the ground. So your legs are coming down and meeting, some way under the ground. And then just sort of combining, it's now just going down again. So just going down. So it's basically the same thing. So this is coming forwards, breathing out, and this is gathering in. Yeah, so the legs just have to be strong enough so that this is no problem. Going down is something that you really want to do. And then this time go down and stay down. So just now just relaxing onto the ground. Yeah, just feeling the Dan Chen. So it's really close to the ground now. So it's happy. Just think of your heels driving down, and that will extend the back for you, flatten the back out. And now let's just try just stretching one leg at a time. So coming onto the toes. So, I mean, it's just, you can stretch however you like, but it's really important to stretch the backs of the legs. And it's much better if you do one at a time, because you can really sort of just concentrate on the one. And just try and keep the legs straight. So you need to sort of tense the quad to stop it from bending. And the other side. Yeah, so when I do my meditation now, it's normally, I'll sit for 40 minutes and then do 20 minutes of this. Side again. And then one more to the side. just sitting. And just feeling the ground. And just be quiet inside. So when when you can quieten the mind and just really listen and observe, then basically whatever you do is working for you. So even the simplest things, like just sitting on the ground, something really opens up, and you can feel it working for you and on you. So as soon as the mind starts wandering and thinking to itself, then basically the work has stopped. So just feel the ground. It's almost like you're trying to sort of lift the hands off the ground. So you're just sort of stretching the contact. So it's interesting reading Nietzsche and Heidegger, because they were both great walkers. And so Heidegger did most of his work in the Black Forest in this little hut. And he used to, walk every day with his lederhosen. And Nietzsche, of course, was always looking for altitude and beauty, something that is so awestruck, yeah. So this sense that, when you're confronted by something that's awesome, never thought I'd use that word, the mind just stops, yeah. And so, what Nietzsche said was that, thinking starts when the mind stops. Yeah. So what we call thinking, thinking with words, is basically worry and anxiety. And that when you quieten that down, then he said it's like voices, like hearing voices dictating to him. Yeah. So he's just very much a medium for energy or medium for spirit, yeah. And Heidegger was the same. Yeah. So what Heidegger was thinking, and so what was coming out through that process, was he had to invent a whole new language, a whole new set of values and ways of just being in the world to actually give it any expression. Yeah. So to read him, you need to learn a new language. Yeah. Okay, so let's come back up. So just back into riding horse, but this real feeling that, there's like you've got like a strip of elastic from your dantian to the ground, and it's tightening, it's pulling all the time. So it's almost violent to wrench yourself up and away from that connection with the earth. And as soon as you think to yourself, that elastic snaps, so you lose your connection. just feeling the equilibrium, so the heels, you know. So this feeling that your spine is just curving this way. So the tail is coming under a little bit. The head is maybe drooping forwards a little bit. The mid back down to the min meng is protruding backwards, and you're settling into the heels, and you're having to reach forwards to stop yourself from falling backwards, because this is a drift. You're drifting backwards physically. Yeah. So when you sink, you also go back. Yeah. And when you come forwards, you come up. Yeah, so I'm drifting backwards, but in order to get down, through the backs of the legs. And then just coming forwards. So now I come onto the front of the foot, heels come off the ground, and there's a real sense of something rising up within me. So I have to really concentrate on keeping my sacrum heavy, hanging through that, so that I can maintain a balance. And then just rocking back. Yeah, so just try and feel the drift backwards. It's almost like the wall is pulling me towards it. So it's like the base of my iceberg, the part of me that's under the ground, is drawing me down, is trying to suck me down into it. And then just coming onto the front of the foot. Feel the 2 feet separate. So remember, the easiest way to separate the 2 feet is just to introduce tiny turns. And then just yeah. So when you just relax and quieten down inside, it's like the ground sort of loses its hardness. It's almost like you sort of blend in a little bit. So we want to feel our roots, you know, so this feeling of something extending through the feet and into the ground. And then also this feeling that the ground is sort of melting up into me. It's sort of merging. So once when I was at Ty's place, the first place they lived in when they moved north, which was right on the beach. And one evening I went out for a walk, and, you know, like Israel, you know, the most beautiful beach you've ever seen, empty. I was the only person there apart from someone walking a dog, I think. And the sun was sort of going down, so I decided just to stand in riding horse, just in front of the sea, you know, with this on the wet sand. Yeah. And so I just stood there and I thought, I'll just stand until the sun's gone down. Because the sun drops behind this by the sea as it faces west, of course. And I hadn't realized, but the tide was coming in. And so gradually the water started lapping over my feet. And of course, that's destabilized the sand. And so I was slowly descending into the sand as the minutes ticked by. It took about 20 minutes. And so by the time the sun was down and I was finished, I was sort of up to mid shins in the sand, and the water was up to past my knees. Yeah. This real sense that the ground, that we take to be this stable, hard, reliable place is shifting, these shifting sands, yeah. And I was sinking into it and the water was rising up around me, yeah. So just a really strong experience, one that I can use for the rest of my life. Just by recollecting it, recapitulating, as Castaneda called it. Yeah, so when you get into energy, everything becomes sort of misty. Yeah, things lose their sort of outlines a little bit. When you get into spirit, it's like everything becomes sharp. But then when you just relax through that, then it all becomes misty again. So the boundaries, everything is liminal. Everything is a boundary, is a transition. Okay, now let's just try doing a walk, really. So just first of all, just getting the figure of 8 going around the feet. So we're going to walk. So as you go around a foot, it enables the other one to step. Yeah. So I'm turning. The turn, once I've stepped, draws me into the foot. So I need to turn this way so that this leg can pull me into it. Okay, so let's try walking the circle like in Bagua. Yeah. So and then we can just keep something going. So if I'm having to go backwards and forwards all the time. So you go round a foot and then you just step like 45 degrees. And then you go around this foot and then this foot comes off the ground and you step 45 degrees. Yeah, so you end up basically tracing the Bagua diagram, the 8 trigrams. And 1 and 2. Yeah, so the more you go, the tighter your circle, the smaller you can make it. Yeah. I'm just trying to get the arms in. I went for a walk in the park yesterday and saw a couple of guys practicing Bagua. It always looks so much more interesting than Tai Chi. So. Yeah, so just feeling the leg like a tentacle. I step out, and as soon as I touch the ground, I start pulling myself towards it. Yeah, so it's all pulling with the feet. So in order to pull, the same way if in order to pull with the hand, the arm, you need to grip the thing that you're touching. So the same with the feet. I need to have a sense that my toes are gripping the ground. So, ooh. Yeah, so because it's a bit tricky and difficult, it sort of just forces the mind to stay with it. So just feel how that lends it an intensity. As soon as the mind wanders, you slacken and die, basically. The toes go down first, all the time, really. Toes go down first, but then I slip into the heel and around the foot to complete the figure of 8. Yeah? So, ooh. So now let's just bring it just back to riding horse. And now just feeling the 2 feet independent, obviously connected, but like the figure of 8, the figure of 8 has these 2 globes that have got this sort of tenuous connection, a skinny connection, a waist, if you like. John used to call it the waist of the figure of 8. So that's here, you've got these 2 feet, and there's a connection, but it's quite, it's not strong. And now just turning it a little bit, and so pushing the feet past each other. to get the sense of the vortex. So when these two currents pass each other, I become the whirlpool that is their connection. And now I just pull the feet towards each other to get me back to the front, and then I push them away from each other again. And then I pull them towards each other. So again, it's just breathing. So I love this. It's like, if I wanted, if there was an object here and I wanted to bring it towards me, so I would pick it up and I would bring it in. So this is like pulling. So I pull it towards me. Now, if I wanted it to continue this way, I would then push it away. Yeah. So in order to have a line that is continuous and unbroken, I have to change from a pull to a push. Yeah. So it's the same thing here. So here I'm pulling, and then here I continue pushing to keep the feet. So this is drawing the feet towards each other. And then when they meet, they have to pass each other. And that requires me to push. Yeah. And then I pull. And then there's that beautiful point where something inside me has to really switch just to keep this sense of continuity. So I'm pulling the feet towards each other, and then they meet. And now I want to push them past each other in order to create the vortex inside my body. So, ooh. Yeah, so just think of the hands. My hands are moving towards each other. And then they meet. And then really it's this, yeah? So 1 and 2. Coming towards each other. And passing each other. And pulling towards each other. And passing. Yeah? It's like a miracle. This is happening all the time in the body because there are always flows going in opposite directions within the same part of the body, really. So like the legs, yeah? So I have my weight flowing down and I have energy flowing up. So this is what we want to feel, these flows. What's flowing is very different. What goes in either direction is very different, but it's still a flow. Ooh. And just back to the front. And now just feel this. Feel, ooh, you feel sort of gooey. It's the thing about Israel. You never meet gooey people. You don't meet soft people. So softness and intimacy. Yeah, so to be intimate, you can't be intimate if you have a mind that's thinking. If words are anywhere close, and this is why, when people get really intimate, the only words that come to them are sort of poetic. There's nothing linguistically meaningful about reality. We've had to create a world that can be talked about. You can't talk about reality. You can just be it. Okay, now let's try the figure of 8 within the foot. Yeah. So I have this figure of 8 where each foot is inside one of the circles of the figure of 8. Now each foot is itself the figure of 8. This is one of the principles. So I want to just feel the pathway. So it's going around the toes, but then it cuts through the middle and goes around the heel the other way from what it was when we were just doing the simple figure of 8. So I'm going around the foot and then back around the heel this way and around. Yeah, so we just do one at a time to start with. So just make sure the weight is in the foot. I mean, it's sort of moving around inside it, but so I don't want to just have the weight here and just be doing something funny with my leg. It's the weight. I'm trying to get the weight, my weight, tracing this figure of 8 on the sole of my foot. And for that, the foot really needs to sort of twist like this. Yeah. So I'm going through the toes from the little toe to the big toe. And then instead of the big toe pressing the ground in order to push the figure of 8 into this heel, it's pushing it back into its own heel, but this side. So the big toe is squeezing through there. So again, the difficult part of the figure of 8 is as you go through the middle on the way down. So when you're going here, you really have to turn here so that the palm can face up as you go through the middle of the figure of 8. So that's the feeling here. Something in me has to really turn and something I have to really squeeze with the foot to get through. So basically, I'm trying to do with my foot exactly what I'm trying to do with my arm and my hand. Yeah, so. Ooh. Let's just try a little bit here. So, yeah, so So the foot is really working on the ground, and it's the work of my foot on the ground that forces the turning. So this is really squeezing me this way with the turning of the waist. So the figure of 8 in my foot is working the ground and causing me to turn. So here it's going round the front of the figure of 8 that sucks me this way. And then it's pressing this way that forces me this way. So it should be hard work, and it should be difficult. Like you just don't have a body yet that's capable of it. Okay, and now let's just try walking with it. It's just the same as the other one, really. So I just put the foot down, but I do this figure of 8 on the ground, a complete figure of 8 to bring this foot up, and then this foot. Yeah. So you're just doing a complete figure of 8 around the foot instead of just half of it, which we were on the other walk. So 1, 2, 3. So the toes now, it makes meaning of the toes going down first, because it's that is hooking into the ground here. And then I pull myself into the heel, and then I just come round the front of the foot again to lift this foot up, the other foot. So 1, 2, and then I really catch the ground. And then here, so this is like extending, pulling my heel down, and then I just clamp the ground. Good. Just imagine you're sort of doing it on the grass. So, this action of the foot would make a real mess of the ground, because you're sort of churning and twisting. So let's just bring it back. So let's just try just a little bit more, just pulling down. And then, so breathing the ground, I'm sucking the ground into my dantian, up my inside of my legs. And then I'm pushing it away with the outside of my legs. So here, so there's a draw up the inside of the legs, up the instep into the dantian. And then there's a drive from here, from the wings. Yeah. So here, pulling up the inside. And then pushing it away. Yeah, so I'm breathing the earth as well as the sky, as well as the air. You know, so when we breathe through the nose, it's basically I drop the diaphragm to produce a reduction in the internal pressure, and that will suck the air in. But the same thing here, I pull this diaphragm, the urogenital diaphragm, I sort of pull it up to produce a reduction in pressure here, which will then draw the ground in. So it's sort of the same mechanism, same concept, if you like. Yes, so for a man, it just feels like you're trying to draw your testicles up. You know, in the Kung Fu, they practice that so that they can retract the testicles when they fight so that they're not vulnerable. But it's got an energetic component as well. So here I'm really drawing, I'm sucking something inside me up so that I get pulled down towards the ground. So I'm just playing with my internal pressure in order to get the air to come in through the nose and to get the ground to come up through the soles of the feet. Pulling. and then breathing out and sending everything out from the center, and then drawing everything into the center, towards the center. And when you draw it in, at the end of this action, really just squeeze it into the kidneys. Yeah, so they're really important, the kidneys and the adrenal glands. Yeah, because spirit has got a lot to do with adrenaline in a way. Yeah. So when your spirit's up, so's the adrenaline. And so you have different capabilities. You become a different creature because the chemicals inside your body, you're basically taking a drug. So adrenaline is a drug. Remember that bit in Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas where they get a bottle of adrenochrome? Pure adrenaline from the adrenal glands of a cadaver. And he doesn't know, it's a problem with drugs, is dosage. Never know how much to take. So he just dips a matchstick in it and then just touches his tongue with the end of the matchstick. And instantly every muscle in his body just freezes, seizes up. Draw. Those are the days. Those are the days when people took risks, yeah? When people were mad rather than depressed. Nowadays, everyone's just depressed. Safe and sorry. You can't be safe without being sorry. Okay, now let's just bring it up. But again, just feeling that this is something here is, I've contracted to bring this foot up, and then I have to really, straighten gently so that I don't thrust this back. No. So when the feet are together, basically you're no longer braced. So when we have the feet apart like this, it just makes it difficult to turn, because it's like I'm braced on the ground. Now, as soon as I step up, I become unstable on the turn. So this is what we want to feel. We want to just feel that wobble that we brace ourselves against when we have a wide stance. And of course, when we are in the wide stance, we just want the hips free and open enough so that I can retain some of this wobble. I haven't just tightened. I haven't frozen out the movement. I've equilibrated. And again, just feel that connection with the ground. It's alive. It's not just you that's alive. Your aliveness is enlivening the ground. Yeah. So when you have spirit, you invest your world with spirit. It's the best way of giving is to just bring up your spirit. Is that, the Disney version, the cartoon version of Beauty and the Beast, where at night time, when the servants have gone to bed, the cutlery and the crockery in the kitchen comes alive and they all dance. So there's this beautiful scene where the teapot and the plates and the knives and forks get faces and they just dance. Yeah. And that's just spirit. Yeah. And it's just sad that spirit only really comes up comes out when we go to bed, when we retire, when we leave the scene. So what we would like is for human beings to be the most spirited entities, but a really sort of a light spirit, not a fierce fighting spirit. So as soon as you enter the room, the room starts to sparkle. Like champagne. Like Audrey Hepburn. You know, as soon as she comes in, it's like, ooh. So she had that sort of elfin spirit. You know, that scene in Breakfast for Tiffany's, you know, the Moon River scene, where she slips in through George Peppard's window and just slips into bed with him. Yeah, it's just, yeah, and he's just sort of brought into this sort of heightened awareness. So she had so much spirit and so much like a strange beauty that you couldn't consider defiling it by fucking her. Yeah. So it's really sort of hands-off intimacy, erotic in the best sense of the word. Yeah. So I was reading some writer I was reading saying basically for the situation to remain erotic, the other has to remain a stranger. Yeah. So as soon as they become too familiar, it's like something and you can just relax and all the eroticism is just left. Now it's just, oh, we fuck, why not? Yeah. And so we're always on wet sand and the sea is always coming in. And so I'm wriggling and inching my way into the earth. And similarly, it is creeping up me like an ivy.